but we'll just begin. So I'd like to welcome Chuna McIntyre. I'm the curator of collections at the Sheldon Jackson Museum. My name is Jackie, and we're so fortunate to have this presentation today. This is the last of a whole series of Zoom events that were part of the Share Your Research, Share Your Culture program put on by the Friends of Sheldon Jackson Museum. And people submitted proposals for these different presentations. We've had quite a variety of different ones. And Chuna is the last one. This was sort of a winter kind of series. So hopefully at the end of this spring, we'll be here in Sitka, but we'll see what happens with that. So Chuna McIntyre is a Uliq garment maker, storyteller, and dancer. And his artistry is rooted in the daily life and culture of his village in Southwest Alaska on the coast of the Bering Sea. Growing up in Uliq, he attended high school some 50 miles north of Bethel. Midway through high school, he moved to Vermont to attend a school under the auspices of Dartmouth College. This opportunity at an early age to experience such a different culture greatly affected his perspective. Eventually, McIntyre attended the University of Alaska Fairbanks for 2 years, studying orthography and art before transferring to Sonoma State University in California. There, he earned a BA in studio art and a minor in Native American studies. He has performed extensively with his dance troupe in New Zealand, North Korea, and Siberia, as well as throughout the United States. He has served as a consultant to the Smithsonian Institution and the University of Alaska Museum. I should also add the Sheldon Jackson Museum, since during his residency, he was kind enough to share all of his knowledge by reviewing every single Uliq and Inupiaq piece in the entire collection. And he's also performed at the John F. Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. As a traditional Uliq Eskimo garment maker, dancer, painter, and storyteller, he's drawn from the teachings of his grandmother, who you'll learn more about today, in order to make a living as a professional artist and cultural expert. So we're so pleased. The last time we had Chuna here, he was an artist in residence, and we've been in touch quite a bit ever since. We're so grateful to you for your knowledge and for your generosity of spirit. So thank you for participating in this series and for sharing everything you have to share with us today.
Ikpaklachit, akluit, knagutait, jangsait. Ikpaklatun jali, kwinga bilangan ka saita, atushit, akutta, jiulamta. Saita, sait schuitki. Thank you for this opportunity. We are being here now. The materials that our ancestors brought forth to us are vital to us. They're important. They are our inheritance. In Uliq, we call it baitak. All the materials and the knowledge that they brought forth to this time is our Uliq inheritance. So we ought to take it in that light for what it is. Unam kalagut kan kamakut khaniak luput. Chiokli tatu tulhit yut. My chalipiu maluting chalpiu malay tatu lakait. Today our talk is on our clothing, especially. So I brought this, what we call the Attica, and you pick the real parka, Attica. And it has a rounded hem at the base. It's not straight across, it's rounded. We call that Achshuni. And it has these two black pieces coming down. We call them Shutmok. And then other elements we call, for instance, these are called Ngruta, Manurun, Ngruta, Khachish. And these are the Michurutaks. Every little element has a name, as you can hear me talk about them. So it's important to remember and record that for future times, so we won't forget from this day forward the names of the elements, because we still remember them. Remember, they are our baitaks, our inheritance. And these are called alnat, of course, the tassels. And there's two kinds of tassels. This is the regular tassels here, alnat. And this tassel is called nunurak. Now, nunurak can be translated in two ways. I could either scold you, nunuk you, or nunurak is a gift. So these are like a gift to us when we wear them. Gifts of the animals, gifts of the person who made it for us, gifts of, essentially the gifts of the universe, so to speak, in a way, is what it's really saying. Now, the parka, the background is rabbit, which is white rabbit, which is, of course, the indication of light, brightness, and snow. So I'm showing you here the front, and then I'm going to show you the back here. Let's look at the back elements of the piece. On the hood is the gakaoyak, the decorative piece hanging from the back of the hood. These two little tassels are from the bellies of the land otter. We call these dangversorak, meaning when we render seal oil, the rind is left. So this reminds us and the importance of dangversluk in Uliq. You see, these are the dark ones here, as opposed to the pieces here up front. You see, these are white here up front. These are called michiachok. When our ancestral father, Abba Nuhbak, was being pursued by warriors, as he was climbing the mountain, he would regurgitate a little bit of caribou fat or tallow, because he was eating caribou tallow at the time when the warriors were advancing towards him. And when he escaped, he would regurgitate caribou tallow or fat. So these are our ancestral fathers, regurgitant. so all these names, also these, even though they're black against the white rabbit, are also called Ngruta, his reason for eating. And when we put dark and light together in our garments, we call that milusuni, very contrasting colors against one another to create a play in color and light. As you can see, it's red, black, and white. The red is for our blood. actually it's the ancestral blood of our mother. Angaktak was her name. He was the principal wife of Banuhbak. And in honor of her, we use red yarn nowadays in the tassel decorations. So on the Kmichluhutaks here, you can see the tassel holder. This shape is the fluke of the beluga whale, stalk. So it's particularly from Uliq, actually, that this element was used from time immemorial. And when you, by the way, when you count the tassels, there are very specific numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is a very important number in Yupik. It combines the 3 and the 4. 4, of course, is our cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. 3 is the ancient notion of Yupik Trinity. Even before the Christians came to us, we had this whole sense of Trinity within us. So 3 and 4 combined gave us that powerful number. That's why we utilize them in our tasseling system, to never forget that numeral, the combination of the cardinal directions and the 3 within us. Other elements to this piece, for instance, on the arm here, you see this band here on the cuff. In Yupik, we call that gaungwak, meaning in the old days, when people made Eskimo ice cream, it left kind of like ring around the cuff. So in essence, it's the original ring around the cuff. It shows us we always had a gutak, our Eskimo ice cream. So that's what it indicates there. On the back, also, these are wolverine tails. One tail split in half and placed on either side of the garment to show the abilities of the hunters to be able to bring and to honor the wolverine. We use wolverine tails as such in honor and in thanks to the animal. Here's another Michiachok right underneath the arm. So that's the Atkupak in Yupik. Atkupak Kachuni Shutmalik Kachisil. So it has all these names attached to this one piece, describing elements which might have come from Bristol Bay all the way to our bay. So this particular parka has elements from Bristol Bay to the Kuskokwim Bay. So it combines all those elements and family emblems, and our Baituks, our inheritance, together. It brings them in one monumental object or clothing that we wear. And as we stroll down the village lane, you don't have to ever open your mouth. They know exactly where you're from. and who your inheritance and from which family lineage and from what you come from. That's part of the visual cue that a lot of our garments gave to the world out there as we live through time. And we're bringing forth to this moment our inheritance. I keep going back to the word inheritance. It's because it's important to realize that all the materials that the ancient people, the things they loved, the things they cared for lovingly and made over and over and over again over the 30 centuries that we've been on this continent. We're privy to it because they brought it forth to us. And we can appreciate and utilize at this moment with pride. Yes. So it's important to say that we are very proud of our inheritance, and we're very proud of what our ancestors have given us. All their industry, all their work, and everything that they did for us is here because we're here. By the way, this was my grandmother's mother. Her name in Uliq was Anhotak, and she was actually originally from Napaskak. Grandmother always called her the proper Napaskak woman. Napaskak Mubak Padu, she always called her that. Her mother, her English name was Carrie Carter. And here's my grandmother. In 1985, I took this photograph of her when I was taking photography. So here she is. Now, my grandmother was born in Uliq, which is now they're digging out all that material from that area just beyond Queenahawk. There's an ancient site that they brought out a lot of our materials. She was born right there in that very area. So she was an Uliq, she always said. She was an Uliq. So incidentally, this is the hood that she's wearing in the photograph. She actually made it for me in 1985. So when she got it done, I said, Grandma, put it on. I want you to put it. So she put it on and I took a picture of her. But she made this for me. So it's that very piece in the photograph. We call this Yochach because you put it on Yochach, we call it, by donning it on and in this stance. And it was created for a hoodless parka. In addition, you would wear this if the weather was cold. It's made of muskrat. This is jackrabbit, wolverine, and wolf on a sealskin base. And we call these Uliq. The edging is river mink. And that's a piece of wolf there. It's a gakaliak. So she made this for me. She made this for me in 1985. That was almost 30 something years ago, 32 years ago, I think. Okay. Incidentally, this is called Uliq in Yupik because of the, it's created with these very loosely woven so air can come through. Clothing were put into these so air could flow through as the clothing is in these items. It's a small version of, sometimes they're made much larger, of course, and we call these the Uliq, where air can come through in and out, where the garment, when it's placed in there, is continually being aired. Yeah. I got a belt here. It actually belongs to our drummer, Vernon Jimmy. Incidentally, he's our linguist, our bona fide real linguist. So if you have any Yupik language questions, Vernon Jimmy is the right person to go to because he's our bona fide linguist. So this is his belt made of wolverine paws, seal skin, and a wolf tail here. These are used by our men for dancing, for dress up. And then here is a woman's belt, which in Yupik we call chip because there's an extra piece hanging right up front as you're wearing it. So you can see the extra piece hanging. Chipnuk is an extra. So an extra piece hanging from the belt itself gives the belt its name. It's also called Nakugun or Nakugutberg is a real belt. Here's one piece. This was on a piece of seal skin that's been tanned. Here's another piece which has been summer dried. Again, it's a Nakugutberg, of course, with all the glass beads put onto the belt. Okay. We have an Uliq when people really dressed up in the old times. In the old times, the women would wear the what we call the Uliq. In the old days, they used calf skin, well, caribou calf skin or whatever they had handy. And if you had beads, beads were integrated into the piece. This is very old style beads placed onto a piece of seal skin hide. With very Yupik colors, of course, the red, black, and white. Black is nighttime, underworld, things we don't understand. Red is our blood, which connects all of us. White is the notion of snow, of course, but most importantly, the light which was brought to us in an otherwise dark universe. I wanted to bring a jamatak, a ceremonial headdress. We call this a jamatak or jamakabak. Has a piece of copper up top. See, copper was known to us, Yupiks, because it was brought across the Siberian trade routes. Of course, we never forged it. It was just got naturally from natural veins. So the ancient term for copper in Yupik is bunuk. That's what we called it. It was so rare, it was only used on headpieces, such as this in the old days. And beads, of course, were used in production of the dance headgear. We call this jamatak or jamahawakin. It was used during a processional, during an opening of a ceremony or dance to show off all the goods and the industry of the village. It showed you that this village was able to obtain all the goods that were traded into the village. In other words, it's kind of a visual cue saying, we are industrious. We have access to these materials. And here it is in this incredible headpiece with a piece of copper and beads. Of course, it's placed on some seals, the dyed seal skin, dyed with red ochre. I brought a few dolls today, which were made by we call her our Aunt Alice. Alice Foster, she was the doll maker at home. So I brought a few. She's wearing a nutcook bag again. And she's wearing one with a squirrel, the Arctic squirrel. Again. So she miniaturized the dolls. She's wearing an actually a mink parka. McIntyre, we call it, of course. And this one, we call it Uliq. The particular style is called Uliq. Somebody asked her one time, she said, asked her, how do you know to make all these designs and dolls? And she just simply said, well, I remember all the designs from my childhood. You see, we remember all these designs. So all these designs that my grandmother talked about from childhood, I remember. And that's the nature of going back to the term baitak, our inheritance. All these designs in the Uliq world became our inheritance, which was brought to us. And our Aunt Alice loved making these dolls. And she was very wonderful at it, and very well known for it actually in her lifetime. Yeah. I'm going to close with what Grandma said to me one time. I was just a teenager, and years later I thought about it and I said, yes, that's what it is. I wrote it down because I wanted it to make sure that I write it down correctly. In essence, she said, bathed in resplendent light, enveloped by pure light, they shall know you from afar by your garments, shimmering like midwinter night frost in full moonlight. Bamalichlagamute, dwellers of Uliq heaven. Jakumaluteng tankigmi, ilam tahurli takchik kaitkut ukaken. Kavlaktar lutengchop katchidatkuput. Ukshum kukkani chicken kaumalgatun kanachtun iralva. So with that, I will leave you. Kuyan.
Thank you so much, Chuna. Before we close, I just want to remind everyone that this series is a series of shorter Zoom events. So these are only about 35 to 40 minutes long. So I appreciate your time, Chuna, and we do have a little bit of time left, so we can take perhaps 3 questions. But before people from the audience comment or ask a question, I just want to share with everyone that Chuna, you did make the parka that you started off describing.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure the audience knew that and gave you credit for carrying on the baidak. And also, my question is, could you speak a little bit to the 2 hanging pieces on the chest part in the front of the parka? Because I don't think that we covered those. I was just curious about those. And then after that, we can open it up.
We call these manu meat in Yupik, essentially just the 2 pieces hanging. Interestingly enough, when certain things were brought to us in the Yupik world, such as watches, they would take them apart and hang watch elements right in front as part of decorations.
Oh,
So whatever you can have access to, you could put as a manu meat, we call it manu meat as decorations. Whatever you have access to as part of a decorative element. Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Chuna?
Yeah, hi Chuna, it's Rosemary.
So
I was just wondering, how many hours do you think it takes you to do a parka like that? To sew it, because it's all by hand, right?
yeah. Well, when I did my sister's, I think it took me 2 months.
Mm.
That's fast. I think it'd take me a year.
Well, I would work into the wee hours of the morning, like 3 or 4 a.m.
Oh gosh. Oh.
Time, not only to collect, collecting is a big part in the ancient times. People collected constantly. People continually renewed their garments year in and year out.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Chuna, I have a question. Are there any books or publications that detail the descriptions and the names of the different pieces of the garments?
That is forthcoming.
Well, I see a lot of these and I appraise them, and I've done like loon coats. Are you gonna do northern garments as well?
Oh no, it's for them to do. Oh no, I don't pretend to speak for anybody else.
Okay.
For you, just the Yupik materials, because that's what I know.
Yes.
So it'll be just, I'm working on continually working on a piece, but I have to pass every word, of course, with our linguist Vernon Jimirala, so the words are spelled correctly, and make sure the etymology is all there and whatnot. So, but we did a small presentation for the University of Alaska Fairbanks a number of years ago. So from that, we're continually compiling. Eventually, hopefully, that will be forthcoming.
Well, put me down for the first copy.
Okay, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Gosh.
Just wanted to say hi, Chuna, Kuyana, Tatiana,
Ah,
Gakak.
kuya, takfanishi, takkan.
Piura.
Gosh, we touch a boy.
Any last questions for Chuna before we have him sign off? No?
That's all, folks.
Okay, well, we can't wait to hopefully bring you back to Sitka someday and get you back working with the collections here. We've really enjoyed working with you, and you're a tremendous storyteller and dancer and singer. And thank you so much for all of your time and for really sharing so much language with us. Every time you're with us, you share so many Uliq words, and it's wonderful to have those recorded and documented. So really appreciate that.
I hope you like the background. I took a little bit of effort to try to put things together.
It looks smashing. So do you. Thank you so much, Chuna. And thank you to Rick for assisting. And thanks for everyone being here today.
Okay.
So everyone, we have no more of the Share Your Research, Share Your Culture events happening. As I said before, this is the last one, but do stay tuned for details on the upcoming Alaska Native Artist Residency Program, which is underwritten by the Friends of Sheldon Jackson Museum and funded with a generous grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. Our first artist will be here in mid-May, and there will be information about that forthcoming in just a few weeks, maybe a week or two at most. So stay tuned. We hope to see you again, and pop by the museum if you're able to visit. We're here open to the public Wednesday through Saturday from noon until 4 p.m. until we switch to summer hours. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Chuna.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.